Was it sabotage, ladies and gentlemen, and who was behind it? I'm obviously talking about the incident, the ongoing incident in the North Sea, whereby, as we know, as the time of filming this video, the ship that was hit was carrying military grade, jet fuel for the military. Now, let me just reiterate a few things that I've said in previous videos, and I will link those videos at the end of this where they come up here, like here or here. Or if I can't do that, I'll put them in the description. But I've talked about asymmetric naval warfare. I've talked about that till I'm blue in the teeth. I've also said that the real threat to the United Kingdom, it's not from Russians sending missiles over. It is from sabotage. I've been quite clear in lots of my videos going back over a year. I've been saying that the real threat to the United Kingdom comes from sabotage, and the real naval threat is from asymmetric naval warfare. Now, I did a little bit of digging today, and some of the information I used to rely on has been removed from the Russian sites, and the Russian sites have now upgraded to let me just share this with you real quick. And before we go on to that, ladies and gentlemen, can you do me a real big favor and hit those buttons down below, the like, follow, the subscribe buttons, all those things that help the channel grow. Now, if you guys can remember, I did this previously where I talked about asymmetric naval warfare, and I said I believe the real threat from the real maritime threat is this. Is these things here, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, it's a shipping container. They're called Club K. Now, over a year ago, maybe even in 2020, 2023, I did videos saying, look, ladies and gentlemen, the reason the Russians are not investing heavily, and the Chinese, I guess, the reason they're not investing heavily in their navies right now, and you get like these admirals laughing at the state of the Russian fleet, saying, oh, the Russian fleet is useless. Yeah, do you know what? It is, the Russian naval fleet, the Russian blue naval fleet, I think that's the right term. It does need a lot of money spent on it. But what do we actually mean by why does it need money spent on it? What is the purpose of your navy? Is the purpose of your navy to secure the waters, to use as a launch pad to attack your enemies? Well, in that context, why would the Russians spend money on their blue naval fleet when they have a perfectly good shipping fleet? So this is where I believe the real, and I did videos on this, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I will link them at the end or in the description. The real threat, I believe, to naval warfare comes from asymmetric naval warfare. Now, if you guys know anybody who is in the military, this threat of asymmetric warfare, where your enemy is wearing civilian clothes, they run around the corner, they drop their rifles, and then they're not military, they're not combatant anymore. It's very difficult to deal with. Now, can you imagine how close this ship here, the Hanjin, for example, can you imagine how close that ship could get to into territorial British waters, for example? If it had all the correct documentation, like how close would that be able to get into our waters? And then contrast that with how close a Russian warship would be able to get into our waters. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? So this is a company here, Club K. This is a product, Club K, I believe. I believe the company is called something else. So the company's Russian, I can't pronounce it, but the product, I believe, is called Club K. Now, this is a totally enclosed missile launching system. I think there you've got some I think they may be S-300s, I think, or they may be 300s and they may be 200s. I don't know. But what we can see here is these things fit perfectly in the back of a shipping container. These things can go here or anywhere. And the reality is the people operating this ship probably won't even know that. I would say they won't know they're there. And this ship then will sail wherever it wants to sail, and it's unchecked because it's a civilian cargo ship. Now, can you imagine if a large if a US aircraft carrier or a British aircraft carrier got taken down by a civilian shipping, by one of these civilian ships? How would they respond? Would they destroy it and take it out the water, then thereby you're destroying all the evidence? Would you not respond and let it potentially fire another missile and take another ship down? How do you respond to that threat? Ladies and gentlemen, I've been warning about asymmetric naval warfare for such a long time. So let's go now to let's just have a little talk about what we know that has been happening in the North Sea. So in the North Sea, we've got an incident now where a ship containing sodium cyanide, there's lots of industrial purposes for sodium cyanide, has hit a ship, and the ship was carrying British military aviation fuel. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you wanted if you was going to do a sabotage attack, that is where you would hit. I've said in many videos that this war, the wars in Ukraine, the future wars, they are going to be won and lost with downstream logistics. So it's all well and good Britain having the best fleet of F-35s, the RAF Typhoon, which is the workhorse, and having all these cool aircraft. Guess what? If there's no fuel for those aircraft, they're just like paperweights and backing for people's selfies. They're no good. So what I would speculate, if this was, and ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if this was sabotage, and only time it may come out whether it was or it wasn't in a year or 2 years' time. But what we could, or this could be, the government could come out and say, listen, you know what, this is a Russian attack, this is Russian sabotage, and we're going to go to war with the Russians. Listen, only time will tell. But if you were going to sabotage something, that is what you would do. Enemy's fuel supply is fair game. That is a legitimate target. Now, if we see an uptick in Russian incursions into British airspace over the next coming days, weeks or months, then you can pretty much speculate yourselves whether that is or isn't. Because what I would say is, if the Russians have or someone, let's not be unfair to the Russians. Let's just say if country X have taken down the RAF's, the Royal Air Force's fuel supply, then what you would see, you would want then to burn off any fuel that they had. So now, if the Russians, who have a plentiful supply, if the Russians then give an uptick in incursions, that means that they have to be intercepted by RAF jets, which are burning fuel. So what the Russians will try and do is burn off any fuel that the Brits have. Now, Britain, we are in an island, whether people believe it or not, but Britain is an island. Now, the most potent defense that we have is our Air Force. It really is. Those jets can be scrambled, they can be anywhere really quickly, and they can bring down a lot of firepower. So to stop the fuel supply to those jets, essentially you are stopping those jets from flying. And how many times have I done videos talking about when these Russian incursions happen, they're not just looking at where the response time from the RAF, they're looking at where those fuel trucks come from, they're looking at who gets called in, they're looking at all sorts of other things. And ladies and gentlemen, listen, it was out in the news yesterday, or certainly I think over the weekend, that it was Friday, that there are Russian spy rings operating in the United Kingdom. Anyway, guys, that is the jux of this video. Was it sabotage? Don't know. Was it a legitimate sabotage target? Yes. Have I been warning about asymmetric naval warfare? Yes. Have I been warning about sabotage? Yes. Listen, guys, we have wild times ahead. I'm going to Max Grid, and I'll get you guys another video later.